Welcome back. This is Around the Crown. We're talking all things Sacramento Kings and beyond. Join the Royal family by hitting that subscribe button. And while you're down there, smash up that like button. So, Cal, I got a bunch of things I want to talk about today. First one, Thaddeus Young. He's unhappy with the Spurs. He said he's in a very tough position. Obviously, the guy's later on in his career. Maybe he's trying to chase a ring, get a buyout, stuff like that. But it just leads me to think, well, can he help the Kings at all?
Yeah, I think he could. There are some other players that have recently become available that we're going to get to who I would much rather see the Kings go after than Thaddeus Young. But this guy is a proven vet. He does a lot of things well. He's a good passer for a guy his size, can score inside. Used to be a very, very good defender. Now he's a little bit older, but he still is a very serviceable guy defensively. I'm just going to leave it at that because, like I said, I think there are some other people that have recently become available that I would much rather have.
All right, and we'll talk about them in a second. Next topic of news, Kings news. I guess kind of Kings news. Tyreke Evans applies for reinstatement from the NBA. He last played in the 2018-2019 season with the Pacers. Failed a drug test, performance-enhancing drugs, was suspended indefinitely. Had some great seasons with the Kings. Got traded back in the Boogie Cousins deal. Was playing well. Mm-hmm. I thought the Kings should have held on to him at that end of that offseason. He ends up going on to the Memphis Grizzlies. Played pretty well for them. 19 points a game for them. Wow. He played really well for them. How are you feeling? He
was always a good scorer.
How are you feeling about Tyreke Evans? Do you think he has a chance on any of these teams in the NBA? Will he get reinstated? Should the Kings make a move? What do you feel?
I would like to see him get another shot. I don't know if he's going to get reinstated. How old is Tyreke Evans now? Do you know?
Let me take a look here. Also want to give a shout out to Tanvir.
Yeah, sorry. Tanvir, I saw you in the comments there, buddy. We're feeling great. How are you? Kings win.
Is 32.
32. So, that's getting on the edge there, especially for a guard. But I would love to see Tyreke get another shot. Should the Kings go after him? No. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. They're already extremely guard heavy, unless you're going to, make some trades to clear up a space for him. But he hasn't played in so long. I would be a little nervous of that. Mm-hmm. As just a general fan of the Kings and all that, I would love to see Tyreke get another shot. I hope he does well. I hope he at least gets reinstated because that's the biggest hurdle that he's got to overcome right now. So,
yeah, the Kings need some wings. So, I would be happy to have Tyreke back, but I think he'll probably latch on to a contender and maybe he'll go back to Indiana. Who knows? And that brings me to the next topic, the Indiana Pacers.
Here we go.
Apparently, according to reports, the Pacers are ready to give up on the season. They're talking about trading potentially Sabonis, Myles Turner, Caris LeVert. I saw you put out a tweet about this situation.
I did.
It's no surprise to me. I know you love Caris LeVert ever since he's been in the NBA and probably before that.
Well before that.
But how do you feel about this? Is this a move that the Kings need to make, as in abandoning the season and saying, hey, we're going to be a middle-of-the-road team and we need to start from scratch and rebuild? Because these are some pretty good players. Or should the Kings make a move for one of these guys and try and make that coveted playoff spot?
I think the Kings should jump all over this because I said it in the tweet. It would be an improvement and great to get any. You're reading that Tyreke comment.
Yeah.
It would be a great opportunity for them to get any of these three players. Sabonis is an all-star. He's young. He fits a positional need that the Kings currently need. Myles Turner, I think, would be a phenomenal fit with this team. Mm-hmm. And I even am intrigued by Caris LeVert because for a lot of reasons. As I said in that tweet, I think he could play alongside Fox or Haliburton. He gives them an upgrade in a small lineup, being a big, long defender. He's a very, very capable scorer. They could continue to play this fast-paced, smaller lineup with him as well, and I think it would be an improvement, an upgrade. But I'm going to say it right now, everybody wants Sabonis. And there is a lot of good reason to that. As I mentioned, he's an all-star, he's young, he's a very, very dominating interior player. That last sentence is the reason why I want Myles Turner the most out of all three of these players. Sabonis might be the better player long-term than Myles Turner, but I think Turner fits this team perfectly. He's a stretch big man now. The guy is shooting almost 40% from three on nearly 5 attempts a game. The last 2 years in the league, last year he averaged 3.4 blocks a game. This year he's right around 2.5. So he's a dominating interior rim protector. You could have him play the bigger player, the bigger inside player, and have Rashawn Holmes not have to go up and bang against guys like Jokic and Embiid and all these players on a consistent basis. Holmes could still play inside. You still have that lob game. Turner can stretch the floor, rebound, block shots. He can get out and run as well. I think it's a perfect fit.
The strange thing is all three of these guys pretty much make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
It's like $1 million difference in between all three of them. I put a poll in the chat, so I want to hear from you guys who you'd rather have on the Kings. Sabonis, Turner, LeVert. Both of them are locked up, or actually all three of them are locked up through next season. Sabonis has an additional year after that. Turner and Sabonis are both 25. LeVert is 27. A lot of potential in those three guys.
This is a real opportunity for the Kings. I mean, as we mentioned, any of these three players, I think, depending on what you have to give up for them, and that's the key. A lot of people are assuming that it's a fire sale in Indiana. They're maybe trying to collect draft picks, which the Kings have. So you're not going to have to give up, somebody like a Haliburton or a Fox in any of these deals. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, that's fantastic because any of these guys, I think, improves the team currently.
Charlie, I see you here in the chat. Oh, you just reminded me I forgot to set my basketball fantasy team today. Damn it. He says all of them are losers. What do you call the players on the Kings then? If that's your thinking. Someone wants to know, what would you give up for those guys, Cal?
Anthony Davis was a loser for a long time too, until he went to a team that was really good and they won a championship.
What are you going to give up for those guys, Cal?
Well, I'm hoping to get away with something like Buddy Hield, maybe Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley, or, but I'm going to try to push Buddy Hield no matter what.
Yeah.
Him and some other combination that doesn't include Haliburton, Mitchell, Fox. I'm going to try to get away with the deal that's going to be the best for me. And if this really is we're dumping everything, we're just blowing it up, we're imploding from Indiana's side, then maybe you can get away with something like that.
I feel like Marvin Bagley would be the key to one of these deals. He only makes $11 million, so you'd have to throw in, maybe a Mo Harkless, maybe a Terrence Davis, and a first-round pick to make the salary work. But, from Indiana's perspective, if they're blowing it up and moving on, there's only two things that they're going to want. You're going to want draft picks and young talent.
Yeah.
And I don't think this Kings team is ready to give up any of this young talent. So that, to me, says draft picks. Other than Marvin Bagley, he's 22. He's playing much better now. I have to say that his trade value now versus 2 weeks ago is a lot higher. A lot higher.
Yeah.
So I think something like that, if you do have to give up a guy like Davion or Tyrese, I don't think I'm in the deal. I really don't. But, you talk about that crowded guard spot. You got to figure out what you're going to do. Is Fox your guy? Is Tyrese your guy? Is Davion your guy? That's a very, very tough decision that the Kings are going to have to make. All right, moving on here. Let's talk about Dame Lillard. rough start to the season for Dame. He's still out right now with an abdominal issue. CJ McCollum's out now with a collapsed lung.
Yeah,
poor guy. Is crazy. They lost tonight, putting them below the Kings in the standings because the Kings have the tiebreaker, which makes me feel pretty good.
Yep.
Dame Lillard has said, I'm not requesting a trade. How many times do I have to say this? And people keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Is Dame Lillard available? Should the Kings make a move for Dame Lillard? What are you giving up?
Wow. Well, man. And if Dame Lillard is available or not, the caliber of player that he is, you always want on your team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he would be a tremendous, tremendous upgrade, and he's somebody that I would be okay with a trade involving De'Aaron Fox for. I honestly would. There is Vinny, I have this on my screen if you can put it up for me. There is an ESPN article that talked about potential trades, landing spots for Damian Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
What you see on the screen now is a deal involving the Sacramento Kings. It's a huge deal, 4 teams, and the Kings are going to get rid of a lot of people. I find this deal incredibly interesting because this puts De'Aaron Fox and Damian Lillard on the same team.
Wow.
Portland gets Tyrese Haliburton, Davion Mitchell, Marvin Bagley, Tristan Thompson, and a first-rounder from Sacramento. Minnesota gets Buddy Hield and Cody Zeller. The Kings get Dame Lillard, Patrick Beverley, Tony Snell, and Jaden McDaniels, as well as a second-round pick. And then Oklahoma City comes in and cleans up salary fillers and gets a trade, or gets a draft pick, couple draft picks. So, man, this deal's really, really interesting. I don't necessarily like, giving up all of that. However, you give up Davion Mitchell, you get a guy like Patrick Beverley in return.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that they're the same player, but they are similar styles of players. They're very aggressive defensive guards.
Mm-hmm.
You get to keep De'Aaron Fox, and you have Damian Lillard. I don't know what that would look like together, honestly. Personally, I'd probably rather pair Haliburton and Lillard together.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen Damian Lillard work pretty well with another ball-dependent scoring guard in CJ McCollum. I'm not saying that it would be the same thing with him and Fox, but at least you know that there's some history of that to go off of. This is interesting. I'm interested to hear your take on it.
Well, first of all, I have to say Damian Lillard is the best player in this trade.
Oh, easily.
By far. And when you're going to trade for a player of his caliber, you're going to have to give up a lot.
Without a doubt.
I like Davion a lot. I like Tyrese a lot. I don't want to give up those guys. I'm not going to do this trade if I'm the Kings. However, I do have to say Damian Lillard is worth all these guys. He really is. As much as I like Fox, I don't know if giving up that much of your salary cap to a guy like Fox and a guy like Damian Lillard, I feel like you're going to be stuck in a similar position.
Yeah, you're financially handicapped.
The Blazers are in. Yep. And that's not a bad situation. They went to the Western Conference Finals. They had
playoffs
a lot.
8 years in a row.
They had a lot of success on that team. But I think I agree with you. I'm going to try and move on from Fox, as much as I hate to say that, and try and bring in Damian Lillard to play with Tyrese Haliburton and Davion Mitchell, if possible. I will give up multiple
few number of guys in the league that you would look at and say, yeah, I'll trade De'Aaron Fox for that guy, in my opinion. And this is easily one of them. So.
And I'll give up multiple draft picks. I don't need to give up just one. I'll give up multiple draft picks to get a guy like that if I can. But De'Aaron Fox and a draft pick or two, I think is worth it for the Kings, and I would do that deal. All right, moving on here. Let's talk about Solomon Hill. I got this thing on my phone, so let me pull it up here. There is some drama going down.
Sass, I'm interested to hear why you think they didn't work. I mean, just because they didn't win a championship together? These guys have put up, he's talking about Lillard and McCollum not working together.
Yeah.
They've put up huge, huge numbers every year for the past 8 years. They made the playoffs 8 years in a row, went to a Western Conference final.
You can't satisfy everybody, Calvin. You said Anthony Davis, and somebody said he's still a loser, and he's got an NBA ring, so whatever that means. All right, so back to this thing. Solomon Hill, as you guys know, I think he has a hamstring injury. He's out for the rest of the season, so it's got to be pretty serious. Buddy Hield. This is on Instagram, or is this? Yeah. Speedy recovery, big bro. That's what he responds. I think that's a pretty nice, that's what most NBA players say.
Certainly doesn't.
They say we want
like
you.
There's anything?
We want you to get healthy
in there.
Solomon Hill writes back, "Same for you, bro. You still wearing a Kings jersey?"
Those are some shots fired right there.
I don't know if that's shots at Buddy Hield or shots at the Kings. Sounds like a shot at the Kings to me. But as you remember, Buddy Hield and Solomon Hill both played together on the Pelicans.
Yes.
During Buddy's rookie year. So maybe Solomon knows a little bit about this Gentry Hield beef, and maybe that's why. But I want to hear from you guys, how you guys feel about that, because it's pretty crazy. We don't really see players calling out other teams like that. I don't know if Solomon Hill's on too many drugs for his his hamstring injury, but lay off, man. Lay off.
Yeah. Solomon better hope that Buddy Hield doesn't get traded to the Hawks.
Oh, man, that's funny. All right, next subject I want to talk about here. And I want to preface this by saying that we don't like to spread rumors. We don't like to spread drama, all this stuff. This is just something that as I was watching the game tonight, I was a little curious about. And that was Katie Christensen. I'm watching the game, and it says, commentator, Katie Christensen. And I'm like, that's weird. Because I always knew her as Katie Christensen, but then she was Katie Hunter, Katie Christensen Hunter, and now it's just Katie Christensen.
Uh-huh.
So I end up going down this wormhole on Reddit. I'm not going to say exactly what I learned or the rumors that I heard or all that stuff, but if you guys are curious, go take a look because there's some pretty hilarious stuff going on there. But I didn't see her with a ring tonight. It's Hunter, or Hunter's gone. I don't know. What do you feel about this, Calvin?
Well, I know nothing actually about what you're talking about. I did not go down the Reddit rabbit hole with you. I try to not pay attention to the commentators' personal lives too much.
And I love Katie. I'm so happy she's with the Kings.
Yeah, I think she does a good job.
And Dennis, I still can't answer your question. I don't know. But do some research and get back to us because I don't know if it matters. But I like Katie. I want her to remain with the Kings. I was just curious. I'm like, what is going on here? Why does she keep changing her name?
Yeah.
Katie Hunter, Katie Christensen Hunter, Katie Christensen. I just want to know. I'm just going to start calling her Katie.
That works for me.
Yeah, she's just going to be Katie from now on.
And to get back to the trades real quick, Sass, I'm just seeing your comments in here, and I totally agree with you. I think Sabonis or Turner is a way better fit for this team right now than Damian Lillard would be in this moment. You know,
Yep.
I'm just saying it's hard to ignore. And do I think that 4-team trade is going to happen? No, I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think Damian Lillard's going to get traded. I personally do not. But he's one of those guys that if I hear there's even an ounce of rumors that he's available, I'm going to be calling Portland for sure.
Yeah. You got to do your due diligence. And, you know, when I was coming back from Thanksgiving, I watched Space Jam 2 again on the flight. It's actually a pretty good movie. Dame's in the movie. Dame time. He was the ultimate boss, or as you would say, that you have to beat. And I'd be happy if he was on the Kings. But it's all about how much you give up. There's a lot of guys in the league that I'd say I'm happy to have them on the Kings. It depends on how much you give up. All right, moving on here. This is a quick story. It's a kind of a feel-good story as a Kings fan. There's some drama in Dallas. Luka Doncic weighed in at training camp at 260 pounds. This is over 30 pounds over his playing weight. I saw him in the game last night. He did look a little chubby in the cheeks. I know everyone had talked about Zion and all this. They asked him, the TNT crew asked him after the game, and he said he took a couple weeks off. Maybe he took off too much time. But Cal, do you gain 30-something pounds in a couple weeks? I know you and I are pretty skinny guys, and it's hard for us to gain a lot of weight. But it makes me feel good as a Kings fan to talk about this. So I want to talk about it a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's really intriguing, too, because we're talking about a guy who played well into the summer. He was playing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
They went deep in the Olympics. So I'm not quite sure how you get that out of shape that quickly. But as you mentioned, I don't know what it's like to be 6'9" or whatever he is, 6'8", and be that size.
Yep.
So it can probably go south for you pretty quickly if you aren't doing the right things. And who knows how accurate that is. You know, I saw a report also this week that said Zion weighs 330 pounds now. I mean, who knows exactly what the deal is. But I do think that Luka has been hurt a lot this year. So I don't know if it's him being out of shape or it's just that he played a ton of basketball over the past couple of years and it's finally starting to catch up to him. But he hasn't really looked, like Luka necessarily. We've seen it in flashes.
Yep.
But he's got an ankle issue that he's dealing with. I think he has a
Your
hand
ankles
or
don't
wrist.
like that extra weight.
Yeah, that's true. But at the end of the day, I mean, he did just have like 30-something points against Brooklyn yesterday. So he doesn't seem to be that effective.
He's the guy at the gym that nobody picks him to be on your team because you're like, this guy doesn't look like if you take the height out of it, this guy doesn't look like a basketball player. And then all of a sudden he drops like 40 on you and it's crazy. He's such a good player, man. He really is. He played 19 games this season, 25.5 a game, which is just about his career average. He's right there in field goal percentage. You know, not really a drop-off for him. A little bit more assists this year. But I guess it just makes me feel a little good as a Kings fan that we pass on this guy and he's having some issues, whatever the hell that might be. Is it Gazer Beam 2K? Yes, I admit Dave Yeager was the Buddy Whisperer. I think Buddy played great under him, but Buddy's so streaky, man. He's played great under a lot of people, and he's played bad under a lot of people. It's pretty clear that Alvin Gentry and Buddy Hield do not mix, though. That is very clear. And I think he'll end up getting traded. Moving on here to trades. There's 3 dates that us Kings fans need to remember here. December 14th is the day that Mo Harkless and Alex Len are available to be traded. January 14th, Rashawn Holmes and Terrence Davis become available to be traded. And then February 10th, we all know, is the NBA trade deadline. Other than those 4 guys, every single player on the Kings roster right now is pretty much open for business. Teams could be making calls. I know the Kings are on a 3-game winning streak right now, which I guess makes Monty and company a little less inclined to make a drastic deal or hit the panic button, stuff like that. But, Kyle, I just want to hear your overall thoughts on how the Kings are approaching this trade deadline, whether you think we'll see a trade in the next month or so, or if you think it's going to go right up until that February 10th deadline.
Well, I don't know. That's a really hard thing to predict, but I do think that this is an important time for Monty McNair because, you know, we've talked about these Indiana Pacers players being available. I think that a deal involving one of those guys, you know, especially if it's Myles Turner or Sabonis, would be really, really beneficial to this team. And if, you know, what we have heard from Monty over the past weeks and months is that they're not totally ready to give up on this team yet. They still think that there's some potential for them to make a playoff run this year. Mm-hmm. Well, if that's the case, then you probably need to get out there and make a deal. Because, yes, the Kings are playing better right now. They've won 5 of their last 7. Alvin Gentry, I think, has done some good things for them and good things for individual guys like Terrence Davis and Marvin Bagley. But this team is still missing some things.
Yep.
And if they want to be a playoff team, there's an opportunity out there for them to get some of those things back. So I do think that some deal is a good idea, and in some cases necessary for this team to continue to improve. I'm just not so sure if we'll end up seeing it, and because there's a lot of other factors that come into play. You know, Ben Simmons is still out there. I know everybody in this chat really, really wants Ben Simmons. So there's a lot of.
We talked about the things we're worried about with him, you know, and not playing this long, stuff like that. Ramon says, I think to have a chance to make the playoffs, you have to make moves now.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
So, you know, the Kings are 11-14 right now. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They need one more 3-game winning streak to be 500.
Yeah.
But I think with the play of guys like Terrence Davis makes Buddy Hield a little bit more expendable. If you're able to move a guy like Buddy Hield, Charlie says here in the chat, I'm pretty sure Buddy is gone, even if the return isn't great. If you're able to move this guy, maybe you don't need equal value because the Kings have so many guards on this team. They have a lot of guys that can play offense. Maybe if you get a guy that's maybe a lesser guy, but he's a better wing, maybe he plays better defense, something like that could help propel this team a little bit further than another Buddy Chuckets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there any moves that you would like the Kings to make involving Buddy Hield? I'm going to throw a name out there.
I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm really in on this Indiana potential.
Okay.
You know, I think if you could somehow get away with bringing back either Sabonis or Myles Turner, for me, I would rather have Turner just because of the way I think he fits in with this team. But if you could get one of those guys for Buddy Hield and somebody else, that's a home run for the Kings, an absolute home run. But who is this other player?
I mean, you know how big of a fan I am of Lou Dort. I love Lou Dort, man. If I could give up Buddy Hield and a pick for Lou Dort, sign me up. I know Buddy Hield makes more money than Lou does, but when you're the Thunder, you need to fill your salary cap. I don't think they're even close to the cap right now, so they could absorb.
They can't be.
They could absorb a guy like Buddy Hield's contract, and they're not looking for guys to compete right now. They're looking for draft picks. If I'm the Sacramento Kings and I say, hey, I'll give you a top 3 protected pick this season or top 5 protected pick and Buddy Hield for Lou Dort, let's do it. I'd be open to something like that for sure. I love the defense that guy plays, man. I really do. And, you know, now that we're on the subject, the Thunder beat the Raptors tonight. 22 points for Lou Dort, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, some stellar defense by him. Rockets beat the Nets too tonight, which is pretty crazy. These teams are not trying to win games. They're pretty out there like, oh, we're not trying to compete right now, and somehow they're winning games. It's funny. I look at the standings here. The Kings are 10th spot right now at 11-14. Timberwolves are 9th spot at 11-14. But you look down towards the bottom, the Thunder, they won. The Rockets, they won. Blazers aren't healthy. Spurs, they're not really sure what they're doing. But we got to string some more wins.
The Western Conference, outside of the top 3 teams, Utah, Golden State, and Phoenix, it is a scrambled mess there, especially from, you know, seeds 5 to 11. So there's going to be a lot of you know, changing in these standings here from now until the end of the season.
Dennis says this Reddit thread is insane.
I might have to check it out, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Hey, I'm not spreading any rumors. I don't want you guys to start a Reddit thread on me or anything like that. I'm just, as a concerned Kings fan, I'm just letting you know what I found very, very interesting. Ramon says, I'd say Christian Wood would be a better fit than Sabonis, but I feel like Monty isn't aggressive enough as a GM to make that happen.
Well, we'll find out. I mean, that was my point about this is a really important moment for Monty McNair and his tenure as GM of the Kings, because I feel like he should make some type of move right now. The question is, what is it going to be? Yep. And I agree with that completely. Christian Wood is a better fit for this team than Sabonis.
Mm-hmm.
Sabonis is a great, great player, but he's a very, very interior dominant player. And him and Richaun Holmes alongside each other, I'm just not so sure how that looks on this team, especially when you've got a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who his best ability is to break down his defender and get into the lane. You don't want the lane to be more clogged with two guys that play inside.
Yep. All right, we got the poll completed. It's hilarious. 14 votes, 35% Sabonis, 35% Myles Turner, and 28% Caris LeVert. So, Cal, you're losing right now with your LeVert move. But, guys, we need wings, man.
Well,
we need
LeVert
wings.
was just an interest. I'd be happy to have Caris LeVert.
Yep.
But I don't think that's what improves the team the most.
Yep.
I just think if you somehow can't put a deal together for either one of those other guys, considering the way that the Kings are playing right now, Caris LeVert makes that style of team better.
Yep.
He does.
There's one more name I want to throw out here, Deandre Ayton. Doesn't seem like he could potentially be available. Former #1 overall pick. He's playing great. He was just in the finals last year, but he hasn't been able to work out a contract extension with the Suns. We know they're paying Booker a bunch of money. We know they're paying Chris Paul a bunch of money. They have a lot of other young pieces that are going to need to be paid here pretty soon. But the thing that really stuck out to me, other than the guy's play and all that, is they interviewed him and they asked him about the contract extension. And this is his response. He says, quote, "It didn't work out, and I got it out of my mind right away. What I can do to make it rub in everyone's faces is to bust my ass, work hard, and win games with the Suns. At the end of the day, it's all about winning. If you want to get something and earn something in this league, you have to be a winner. Do something that leads to winning. Me putting my head down and working is just closing out all of the noise. I'm not really worried about all that. You had the time to do the negotiations. You had a deadline, and it didn't work out. Boom, bada bing. You still got to work. You still got to play in between the lines. Still got to make sure this dude don't dunk on me, score on me, or do something to win the game. Still got to do that. And that's just my competitive spirit." How often do you hear a guy, a #1 overall pick guy? These guys are usually divas or guys that have really big personalities and very big egos, talking about why he didn't get paid and saying, I need to put my head down and work harder. Sounds like Chris Paul's in this guy's head telling him what to say, which could very well be true. But this is the attitude the Kings need.
Yeah, definitely. I've been a big DeAndre Ayton fan since he was at Arizona. I remember in that draft, I told you I would take DeAndre Ayton #1, and you wanted Doncic to go #1. And in hindsight, it's hard to say if both guys are obviously really, really good players and are going to be really good players for a long, long time. But this is exactly the right attitude to have. Mm-hmm. And it helps when you're a young player and you get onto a team that all of a sudden becomes really, really good.
Yeah.
And you get a taste of what the NBA Finals is like.
Yep.
And you realize that, money is important, but I also don't want to end up on a shit team. So I think he's playing his cards really, really well right now, and he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing. He's saying, I'm going to get paid at some point. I know that. Right now, all I need to focus on is becoming a better player than I was last year and helping this team get back to the finals and try to win the whole thing. That's the epitome of what being a competitor is.
Would you make a move for this guy, and what are you willing to give up?
I would love to have DeAndre Ayton on my team. Absolutely love it. What would I give up? I'd love to see him and Fox together or him and Haliburton together. You think Richaun Holmes and Tyrese Haliburton are pretty good throwing lobs to each other. How about DeAndre Ayton? Yep. That would be something to watch. So, I'd try to give up everybody but those two for him.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, guys, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we will take a look at the Kings' next game in week of basketball with a new segment called Kings Crusade.